The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order! The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Dylan J. Schlender presiding. We all rise for the Honorable Judge Schlender.
Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we are hearing the case of The People vs. Ishtar, a 1987 adventure comedy film about two aspiring songwriters who unknowingly get caught up in a plot to overthrow the leader of the fictional Middle Eastern nation of Ishtar. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Maynard Bangs, you are appearing on behalf of the prosecution. You may present your opening statement.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, telling the truth can be dangerous business. Honest and popular don't go hand in hand. And although it brings me no pleasure and certainly won't make me any more popular, I'm afraid my job here today forces me to undertake the very dangerous business of telling the truth. The two protagonists in this film perform admirably enough by Dustin Hoffman and Warren Beatty, but I think the issues I have with them stem from the script. They do things that seem counterintuitive to the characters as they've been introduced. And ultimately, the resolution of the intrigue in this film leaves me scratching my head. I'm here today to not prove that Ishtar is actually one of the worst movies ever made. No, my aim here is to show that the sad truth is it isn't even interesting enough to be worthy of that title. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bangs. Appearing on behalf of the defense is Mrs. Mary Jo Pehl. Please present your opening statement.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Maynard Bangs would have you believe that Ishtar is, as noted by some critics at the time of its release, one of the worst movies of all time. However, I would like to point out that he himself, Maynard Bangs, opened with a song from Ishtar, thereby undermining his very own argument. Ishtar most certainly is not one of the worst movies ever. Is it flawed? Yes. Is it funny? Yes. Is it a little all over the map? Yes, but what Mel Brooks movie isn't? There are any number of movies that go all over the map and seem to have no unifying thread. Why should Ishtar be punished with this identity? Thank you.
Thank you. Prosecution, you may proceed with your first exhibit.
Dustin Hoffman's Chuck and Warren Beatty's Lyle are introduced to us as two wannabe songwriters who can't carry a tune in a bucket and find their careers going nowhere fast. Their painful off-key singing is played for laughs, but will actually quickly begin to get on the nerves of those in the audience. But the two finally get their big break when they land a gig performing at a hotel in Morocco. However, when they arrive in the country of Morocco's fictional neighbor Ishtar, Chuck is approached in the airport by a resistance fighter named Shira in disguise as a man. After some very tedious jokes about Chuck not being gay, Shira flashes Chuck one of her breasts to assure him she's actually a woman. Now, I don't claim to be an expert in international intrigue, but I have to say, if you're trying to remain inconspicuous, flashing your breasts in public has to be about the worst thing you could do, because men can spot those things from up to 3 miles on a clear day.
It's true. It's true.
But
No
regardless,
comment.
whether overcome with lust or sympathy, Chuck agrees to swap passports and luggage with this complete stranger in a strange land. This strikes me not only as stupid, and I think the film would agree it's supposed to be stupid, but specifically out of character for Chuck, because the film has established him as fairly lucky in love. He's the ladies' man. He's the Bing Crosby to Lyle's Bob Hope. Now, Lyle is developed to be more believable as the desperate simp, and I have to wonder if the screenwriter simply confused the two of them. Now, here's where the film really loses me. Up to this point, Chuck and Lyle, Chuckle from now on, have seemed like literally the best of friends. Although they've only known each other about 5 or 6 months, their relationship is intense. They've given up their jobs to pursue this career, each losing their wife and girlfriend respectively, and they've literally gone out on a ledge for one another. Literally, in an early scene where Chuck contemplates suicide, Lyle talks him down from the ledge. These guys are brothers, but when a complete stranger asks Chuck to do something that could jeopardize their one chance at a break in show business, he agrees to it. Everything he sacrificed in the name of his dream, and Lyle's is thrown out the window for a pretty face he just met in an airport. And to make matters worse, he agrees to tell nobody of this, including Lyle. From there, we get a comedy of errors that finds Lyle suspecting Chuck of being a secret informant for the CIA, and Chuck believing Lyle has been conscripted into the People's Army. And this closeness, this absolute dedication these two showed to us in the first scene of the film is completely tossed away.
Mary Jo, this is going to be a big point in the prosecution's case about the characters. Would you like to respond to how the actors portrayed them, how they were represented in the movie, and whether or not you believe that worked?
Yes, I'd be happy to. First of all, I think Elaine May took a big risk playing each actor against type. That was her intent. Secondly, I think that the songwriting duo, the songwriting scenes, are a comedic idea where they belabor the point. This pair cannot make a hit, and we see their pain, we see their struggle, but they're so committed to it. They want this more than anything. They're attempting to become the next Simon and Garfunkel. And I think that was a really great choice to belabor that point. We see their struggle. If you've ever done movies, if you've ever been a stand-up comedian, if you've ever written songs or tried to be on an open stage with your music or your comedy or whatever it is, your storytelling, you know this plugging away at something. So I think that was portrayed really accurately.
All right, Mr. Bangs, if you could proceed to your next line of argumentation.
Now, unbeknownst to Chuck, but beknownst to us, Shira has secretly given him possession of a map, which is a powerful MacGuffin that could, quote, start a holy war that inflames the entire Middle East and allow Shira's friend to, quote, overthrow a tyrant, the Emir of Ishtar. The CIA wants to get a hold of this map to make sure the Emir stays in power. But at the conclusion of the film, Chuck discovers the map sewn into his jacket, and thus having possession of the artifact that could, quote, end the privation and torture of thousands, he and Lyle use the map to blackmail the CIA into helping them make a record. That's right, this powerful artifact that could bring about a time of upheaval where, quote, the poor and lonely rise up and the mighty are humbled, is withheld for Lyle and Chuck's own selfish personal gain. Am I even supposed to like these guys? I didn't realize they were supposed to be complete dicks, but they kind of are. Sorry, the poor and the lonely, but your oppression and suffering is a small price to pay for the blossoming careers of Chuck and Lyle.
Damn right.
Plus, the album they produced doesn't even sell well because, again, it's talent they lack, not opportunity. They have lots of opportunities in the course of this movie.
And Mr. Marion, just to touch on another thing, wasn't it inundated at the beginning of the movie that two men were going to bring about this revolution that the map predicted as well? So,
that's a feature of the MacGuffin.
Was that prophecy fulfilled then, or no?
not within the confines of this film, I don't think. No.
All right. Mary Jo, do you have anything to say about how this map plays into the broader plot of the film? Was it just like a red herring to
I
a
would
vehicle
like to
for
address
comedy?
some of the points raised. First of all, the fact that the album doesn't sell well has nothing to do with anything. There are lots of terrific albums that never sold well. That is never the measure of true creative genius. Secondly, I ask that you not be dazzled by fancy words like MacGuffin. MacGuffin. That's what he's trying to do, people. He is trying to do a sleight of hand, smoke and mirrors with his big $3 words like MacGuffin. And thirdly, Charles Grodin. Need I say more?
The prosecution defense of Charles Grodin is probably one of the funniest aspects of this film.
R.I.P.
I would like to say, though, I unfortunately paid $4 for that word. I feel I overpaid.
But that's the exchange rate.
Yeah. Now, in an effort to make this ending even more confusing, part of the agreement with the CIA is to remove the emir and help Shira enact certain social reforms. And I don't know if this was rushed into the final draft of the script to make the ending more feel-good, but why exactly is the CIA agreeing to remove the emir and enact certain social reforms in exchange for a map that threatens to remove the emir and enact certain social reforms? Isn't that a bit like stab yourself or I'm going to stab you? If the CIA is willing to make these concessions, then what threat did the map ever really pose to begin with?
Mary Jo, would you like to address this logic that Mr. Maynard has presented?
Yes, I think he has dug too deeply. If this is the point where he says it's unreal or unrealistic, if that's what brought him to that conclusion, when in the very first place, I mean, they buy a blind camel there are so many points along the way where it's ridiculous. I am questioning his touch with reality, that this is the thing that brought him to disbelief, utter disbelief.
Objection, Your Honor. My touch with reality is not on trial here today.
And good thing.
No, I object to you. I object to this whole thing.
Well, I will sustain any objection against Rob for very petty reasons. So, Mr. Maynard, would you like to proceed with anything further, or would you like to rest on that?
Just one final point.
Point.
The behind the scenes of this film is notorious in Hollywood, and between May's perfectionism, her numerous confrontations with members of the cast, including Beatty and Ajani, and some very demanding issues of the location, the original $27.5 million budget, which is already extravagant for 1987. Just to give some context, The Untouchables was made for $25 million. Moonstruck was made for $15 million. Good Morning Vietnam for $14 million. So, and this $27.5 million budget balloons to over $51 million. And I think May is a really great comedy director. You see that in the New York scenes where she can stay tight and capture comedic effects and moments. But once it came to the sweeping vistas of shooting on location in Morocco, she seems out of her element. It's hard to balance the tight close-ups that sell the comedy while showing off the sights of the location. But after all, why are we on location if we're not going to show it off? With that, I will rest my case.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Bangs. Mary Jo, you may present your first exhibit.
I'd like to point out the idea. I don't want us to overlook the possibility that Elaine may have been dealing with sexism. It currently exists in all its forms. Imagine it in 1987, where she's trying to direct a film. Now, the problems that she ran up against, you can't tell me that there aren't myriad films where a director has had similar struggles, but don't get the same kind of rap that I think is being laid at Elaine May's doorstep. Both Hoffman and Beatty have huge egos, and now they're dealing with a woman with a vision. I will concede that the script it feels like two separate movies. The New York stuff, I will agree, is really well in hand. I think that stuff is really funny. And once you get to Morocco, it is a different movie. It's not cohesive. But I think she got a lot of bullshit about it. And I want to make the case that there was probably sexism at play. And if I may close with a few quotes from Ishtar, which are quite hilarious, if I may.
Please go ahead. Absolutely.
Now is not the time to be depressed. You're right. I don't know what I was thinking. That might be a little out of context. I'll tell you what I told Tony Bennett. Sing songs people already know. That way they'll have something to applaud. Look, Lyle Rogers says when they're in the middle of the desert being shot at, look at the upside. We're not living lives of quiet desperation. And one of my favorite that made me laugh out loud when I was watching it was when the buzzards land over by their bodies, like by Hawk's body. Their buzzards are here, but you're not dead. And he says, so they're just here on spec, which I think is so funny. And then he says, when Warren Beatty is trying to revive him, he responds, I'm not dead. I'm just resting. With that, I close.
Very well. Both sides have rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Mr. Bangs, you may begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, let's be candid. If Ishtar hadn't bombed at the box office, making back only $14 million from its $51 million budget, if it hadn't been plagued by now infamous production issues, thus earning itself the reputation of being the worst movie ever made, we wouldn't even be talking about this movie right now. It would be all but forgotten, a piece of trivia, a footnote in a Hollywood appendix. This film's biggest claim to fame is its failure, but the truth of the matter is its failure isn't so spectacular as a 12-car pileup that you can't look away from it. It's instead prosaic, ordinary failure that hovers around meh. Should Ishtar be remembered as the worst movie ever made? No. It probably shouldn't be remembered at all, and I imagine, ultimately, it won't be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bangs. Mary Jo, please present your closing arguments.
Wow. You'll forgive me, I'm a little taken aback by the cruelty of the prosecution.
That's us every week, Mary Jo. It's okay.
I think it's interesting to note that many reviewers who panned Ishtar in the first place changed their minds about it. And many people have declared it one of their favorite films, like Quentin Tarantino, Lena Dunham, Joe Swanberg, Edgar Wright, have publicly praised Ishtar. And Martin Scorsese, no less, has further cited it as one of his favorite films of all time. And I would like to conclude by saying the prosecution is wrong. and dumb. The prosecution is
Oh, yeah! Order in the court, please. Order in the court. Oh, my goodness.
I wanted to end an argument by saying that once. Damn it.
Oh, my goodness. Well, here we go. Thank you both. Members of the jury, Mr. Big Ben Haslar, Mrs. Kayleigh DuLac, and Mr. Hot Fudge Love Cherry Ripple Kisses Lips Back and Back Slap It Perfectly Delicious Ryan Luis Rodriguez, you have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
Going to the deliberation room can be dangerous business.
Oh,
These
I did not
goddamn
read that
nicknames.
ahead of time. I had no idea it was going to be so long.
Nickname's my
God,
favorite
I hate
nickname
all
we've
of you.
given
I hate
Ryan
all
yet.
of you except for Ben.
Okay, so I freaking hate that song. I just have to say, Ben typed to me about that song early this morning, and I have not been able to get it out of my head all day.
That's the brilliance of
driving me
it. You just have to hear a
insane,
little
so I'm
piece
a
of it,
little
and it's
Point,
in
though?
there.
I mean, you're supposed to hate these songs.
Yes, right.
No.
I mean, all the songs sound the same. I mean, that they are really driving that point home. Obviously,
It's one of the
do.
best things that Paul Williams ever did. I mean, like up there with the Muppet movie songs, where these are supposed to be believably bad, and I have
Right.
to say, mission accomplished.
And you know, he had to write them in their entirety. Elaine May wanted
That's right.
them, and
Yeah,
and
that
is
she would only
amazing to me.
select them at the end.
Yeah.
All right. So, as foreman, I would like to hear Big Ben and Ryan. All right, Ryan, could you let me know what your thoughts are?
I like this movie. I mean, I guess I'm the only one in this room who actually likes it. I mean, except for the defense, but I honestly don't really get what the issues are with people with this film. I don't understand. And as I know, Kayleigh, you don't like this movie. Can you tell me why?
So, I found myself incredibly bored when I was watching this movie. I thought it set itself up very nicely. I thought it was really funny, and then the whole montage of them getting to know each other just took way too long, and it lost me. And then they suddenly go to Morocco, and I'm like, okay, why the hell are they in Morocco? And then this weird CIA thing happens, and I'm like, okay, this movie took a really unexpected turn. But then there was all this like really awkward sexual overtone between the one female in the whole movie and the two men. And I was like, every time they were in a room together, I was like, please, God, please don't make them kiss. Oh, God, they made them kiss. And it just was so uncomfortable for me. And then Ben pointed out that it was written by a woman, and I was aghast. I did not expect that. And honestly, it was its only thing that made me like it, was that a woman wrote it. I was like, okay.
You got to take
Is
what
it
you
the
Your hand's
world's
been
worst
stamped.
movie, though? I don't think it's the world's worst movie, but yeah, it definitely wasn't a good movie.
Ben?
That song, that damn song, it is just like the perfect level of catchy yet not good in the way that they sing it, that it just stays in your head the whole time.
Or the way they don't sing it, because they have
the way they
terrible
don't
singing
sing it.
voices.
Yeah.
It was perfectly executed. It does go on a bit long with some of their concert scenes, but that song, that damn song, has me laughing still. Like now, that one thing was done just perfectly. I also like the camel piece
the
and
camel's
the
the
arms
best.
deal.
Oh, I love that camel.
Other than that, I'm kind of with Kayleigh in that it didn't grab me. It did seem like a little uneven and a little all over the place. Like the defense said, what Mel Brooks' film isn't, but still, I kind of like having something that I could sort of hang onto through a narrative. So it'd be like, this scene works, cool, that's funny. And then it'd be like a prolonged scene where it doesn't work and it's not funny. So that's kind of what I was like, but it was just a first watching. The fact that some of these things are sort of lingering with me, even though I watched it 2 or 3 days ago, has kind of turned my head around on how I actually saw it the first time.
And have either of you seen the Road 2 movies with Bing Crosby and Bob Hope that this
I have
is
not.
clearly emulating?
Which movies?
Like
seen
Road
some
to
movies
Morocco,
with them.
Road to Rio, Road to Singapore.
Okay, no.
There's like a bunch.
I've seen their Christmas movies.
Yeah, I believe Road to Christmas was the movie you're thinking of. No.
Yeah.
But what I like about this movie mainly is that the same, maybe about 2 years before this, John Landis made Spies Like Us, which is another attempt to do the road movies, but this holds together much better. So, what are we thinking? How are we leaning?
Just based on the fact that it's sort of lingering with me, I think I'm going to go not guilty. I would like to see it again. But I'm not saying it's a good movie, but I don't think it really has the merit to go all the way to bad. And there are a few good things about it that do push it north of that rating. Like, I think the concept is brilliant. It just lacked in execution here and there.
All right. So weirdly, if I'm choosing between it being a terrible movie or not, I would say it would be Not Guilty, because it's not a terrible movie. It's just not good.
You're just disappointed.
But I don't know if it deserves to be like completely fried as a movie entirely, just because it wasn't very good.
So you're going Not Guilty?
So I'm going Not Guilty.
All right, Guilty.
Oh, Ryan!
You and your swerves.
Vote with your heart, Ryan. Vote your heart.
What heart?
My case wasn't that good. You don't have to pity vote me.
Does it have to be unanimous? What
it
is
does not. No,
the standard.
It does not.
It doesn't. It's just that Ryan
likes to just get at us.
Yeah,
that's my job.
All right.
Let's go and tell that handsome judge.
Mrs. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of the People v. Ishtar, we find the defendant not guilty of being a bad movie.
Oh, order of the court. Order. Oh my goodness. Pandemonium, all these sounds that are so loud and cacophonous. Oh my. All right. The verdict. The verdict. Ladies and gentlemen, please settle. The verdict is so rendered. I hereby sentence. No, I don't sentence. The verdict is so rendered. I hereby declare that Elaine May will be released from director jail, and production of Ishtar 2 will begin immediately. Court is adjourned.
Let's not get carried away here.
No, that's what we do here, Mary Jo. We get so carried away. Ishtar 2 in 3 years.
This is Tim Burr coming to you live outside the Reels of Justice courthouse. Mr. Rob Maynard, you have failed to defend Ishtar. Do you have any thoughts on that jury's verdict?
I gave it my best shot. Someone had to be the prosecution. Someone had to be the devil's advocate. I came up with arguments that I think take the movie down, but I think the jury had some good points. Maybe it's not the worst movie ever made. So I think a fair verdict. The system works.
The system works. Thank you, and here comes Miss Mary Jo Pehl. Excuse me, could we get a thought on how you feel about this jury's verdict?
Justice was served. The jury was able to see through the bullshit being offered by the prosecution.
So and mean to Rob.
My client is vindicated. My client will walk free. A free movie. And that's all we can ask.
Thank you very much. That's all we have from the courthouse today. Let's go to the studio for post-trial analysis.
All right, now, Mary Jo, we're dropping our characters, but you go right ahead and keep being mean to Rob. That's great.
Yes,
Hey, you guys, I'm sorry. Why was I calling Rob? Was I calling you?
Because he's weird. It's been his, dream since kindergarten to be called Maynard Bangs.
My lawyer name is Maynard Bangs.
Oh God. Okay, good. Because you know what? I just woke up. I am terrible with names, so I felt like the biggest dummy head. So I appreciate that, and I should not have brought any attention to it. So thanks for bearing with me. Okay, never mind.
Normally we would cut it, but it's actually sort of funny, so I'm keeping it.
Go right ahead.
But I'm glad we could do it. Now, Mary Jo, what has been keeping you busy lately? What have you been up to?
Well, I'm working on a Twitch show, which premieres, let me look at the calendar.
I have it written down, too. The August 24th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central.
Yeah.
The August 24th.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, so I'm working
Not just
on
a
that.
August 24th, the August 24th.
Yeah, 2021. So I'm getting that underway, and I just finished a manuscript that I'm trying to get published, and summer in Minnesota is very fleeting. So you kind of go on standby to the rest of your life because you're outside all the time. So that's the long and the short of it. And I think maybe all y'all feel like this, but I feel like we were kind of in a groove post COVID, and then it's not post COVID. So I think there's a part of me that's just sort of continuing to stumble through that. How about you guys? Do you feel the same way?
It's COVID too, pandemic boogaloo.
Yeah, post COVID. I don't know where we're at. It's a mess.
No, I know, right? Maybe I shouldn't have brought it up. So sorry about that. But
it's on a lot of people's minds, and maybe on your Twitch channel you can interact with your audience about it. What kind of engagement are you looking to get on Twitch, you think?
Well, one of the things we're doing is we have a lot of ideas for future episodes. It's a monthly show, and we really want to hear from people who are watching what any ideas that they have or voting for the next iteration down the line. I just love hearing, people will be able to, participate in the chat. We're going to do a book club where people who have read the book are welcome to participate in the actual Twitch show, because we're going to do it like a real book club. So I'm just really looking forward to that angle of it, like really connecting with people.
Yeah, move over.
If I watch the movie, how well can I fake it?
So, Cliff's Notes.
Do you have the first book picked out for fans to get started on, or is that going to be revealed on the first
Well,
episode?
it's just one book club meeting because every episode is going to be different. But
okay.
So one of the episodes is going to be book club, and it's going to be the Partridge Family.
They have a book?
Well, that's a TV show, Mary Jo.
You don't say. Tell me more. No, it's one of those cheesy novelizations that they did for all those 70s and 80s
TV
shows.
novelizations too? That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's so great. Are you giving me shit right now? Are you bullshitting me?
No, I'm serious.
No, I wish I could show you the cover of it. My cousin borrowed it from me a million years ago. He just returned it to me, and I was like, and my name is written in there very seriously, like Mary Jo Pehl, the Partridge Family book. And then when I posted that on Facebook and Twitter, people went nuts and they were like, I read that. So I thought, we have to have a book club.
Oh, that sounds like a great idea. Are there going to be guests on the show?
Yes, I'm hoping so. I cannot reveal anyone, but that is
I'm hoping for Bridget Nelson.
I don't know who you're talking about. Who is this Bridget you speak of?
You know who he's talking about.
So that's the other thing. I've been working on riff tracks. I love doing riff tracks with Bridget. She's a blast, and she's super funny. So that's a good deal of my time.
Yeah, what was your most recent riff tracks to present? It was either Lucky Day or The Box.
I think it might have been Lucky Day, Mary Higgins Clark TV movie adaptation of a shitty TV movie. Hey, can I say shitty?
Yes, please.
Yes,
absolutely.
Okay,
But only 3 times.
I forgot to ask you what the threshold was, but it's a shitty TV movie adaptation of a shitty Mary Higgins Clark novel, which goes without saying, but it's so bad and so bad. So
I really like. I saw The Box, and where it's basically an unimaginative kids playing with the box and trying to use their lack of imagination.
Right, like who was that made for? Why was it made? And
My parents didn't love me, so
did kids need coaching on how to play? That's what's so crazy.
Well, it's like the regular riff tracks did, like drawing for beginners, the square. Like, who doesn't know how to draw a square?
No,
like,
right.
I mean, I know kids are not that smart, but they're not dumb.
Right.
Yeah, who doesn't know that? Can you send me a link? I got to see how crazy that is.
4 sides.
Oh, I get it. And connect them. Okay.
So, Mary Jo, I'm going to assume that, if we put Lucky Day on trial, you would say it would be guilty of being a bad movie?
Oh, yeah. It's so bad. And Amanda Donohoe is in it, and she was in the Lair of the White Worm, and she was also on a soap opera. And there's just she's just sort of this cinematic void. There's nothing going on there. And to give her any credit, the script is so bad and so preposterous.
You've
That's
been
it.
hitting
It's
like
just
a real. You've been hitting a real stride with these TV movies lately. Like Earth Angel is, I think, a new classic. Mother of the Bride, that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know where you keep finding these things, but they're getting better and better, like every time.
Well,
it's awesome.
Love to hear that.
Yeah, we like it. Now, is there a movie you've riffed for Riff Track Presents or any in your riffing career that you think we would find not guilty?
No. Nope.
No, that's it.
I love it.
Must be guilty to be riffed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Here's the thing. Sometimes we will, Bridget and I, or Mike, Kevin, and or Bill and I, will talk about films, and any of my former MST3K colleagues, we will talk about things that aspects of a film that worked. And I'm hard pressed to think of any offhand because I've seen billions of them, but sometimes, and I guess it's all relative, but sometimes the movie isn't the worst thing on earth. There's just a lot to sink your teeth into. Does that make sense? Like,
absolutely.
It's perfectly passable, and maybe my threshold is lowered, having been, maybe I'm inured to a lot of it, but sometimes you're kind of like, okay, they did the best they could with what they had. They're not aggressively bad.
They're passive aggressively bad.
That's on my dating profile. I'm not aggressively bad.
Yeah.
Well, there's usually that level of sincerity to them that kind of can give you an out while you're watching it, right? Like if it's made by a sincere filmmaker, that kind of changes the calculus a bit, don't you think?
Yeah. And if somebody shows up that is trying to acquit themselves the best they can, like in Lucky Day, there's an actor, and I'm sorry, Tony somebody, I forget his name, who's a old staple in a lot of movies. You'd know him if you saw him. He shows up and he is authentic. He gets the job done against all these wild interpretations and actors who have no chemistry on screen. So sometimes you can appreciate that,
Yeah, no, I find myself in, sometimes getting sucked in by some of the films they did in MST3K, only because I love the old black and white sci-fi movies anyway, or some of the great noirs actually, like Tormented and Screaming Skull. Like those are kind of still interesting to me anyhow.
It is interesting to watch what they did with what they had on hand, if that makes any sense,
Yeah.
And to speculate what they were thinking. And I have to laugh at myself because sometimes when Bridget and I are writing movies, or anytime, I'm working with anyone on Riff Tracks, you dive deep into a certain section of the movie. So it's a little out of context. So then when we're recording, we record at Kevin's house, Kevin Murphy's house, and he's got the movie on a big screen computer. And as it's playing, I forget to say my lines, because all of a sudden I'll realize aspects of the movie I didn't realize. And they're stupid movies. They're like really obvious movies. And then Bridget will be like, you missed the line at 22:13. And I'll be like, I know, because I just realized that this guy is and so it cracks me up that when you're seeing something a different way, well, I'm kind of a ninny too. So, you guys, I feel like I'm blabbing. Am I making any sense? Thank you for listening.
Oh, no, this is
We're
fantastic.
We're entranced.
Those movies are easy to get absorbed in. Like Earth Angel in particular, like towards the end, there's a moment where I think Bridget asks you if you're crying because the movie's so effective. And at that moment, I was like almost about to wipe away tears. Like I got so invested in it that I was like, no, I'm not. And then I realized they're not talking about me.
Oh. No, that's so funny. There must have been a touch of authenticity, and also Bridget and I can have soft hearts about certain things when we something sweet happens. Although
if it affects you, it affects you. I mean, you got to just kind of like surrender to it at a certain point.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All the riff tracks, kind of teams as they're sort of separated are great. You and Bridget, of course, the normal riff tracks guys and Brit tracks. Brit tracks has tons of charm. Shout out to Matthew J. Elliott.
Absolutely.
We love Matthew.
We love
Former
Matthew.
MJ, my fellow MJ.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Now, we always ask our guests for a recommendation of a movie that you think our listeners should check out. So what is a movie that our listeners should check out?
You know what I think you should check out is... I just wrote it down because... I'm sorry, I'm looking through my notes, you guys. It's been...
Take your time.
Yeah.
I'm visualizing it as like a napkin.
It's Viggo Mortensen in Captain Fantastic. Have you guys seen that?
So good.
It's
Ryan
terrific.
has, guaranteed.
Ryan's seen every movie.
I hadn't seen it before, and somebody recommended it. I hadn't even heard about it, and it's quite well done and really touching and really interesting.
Do you know what year that is from Ryan?
2016.
Oh, okay. Good for him. Was it Vigo? He's Vigo. All right, so I'm
Stop.
Hey, I'm trying to buy time while I build up my notes.
I just want to... I'm sorry. I am so scattered tonight. I am so sorry. I've had a lot going on. My dad was in the hospital overnight a couple of days ago. And he's fine. You guys, he's fine. But it's just very, discombobulated. And I'm sorry. I don't mean to make this my therapy session, but I apologize. No, I'm just realizing how discombobulated I am. And he just had a minor heart thing. But you guys, my dad never stops talking. He was the mayor of the small town that I grew up in. Did you know that?
Yes.
I'm political royalty. Did you know that?
And the mayor of Circle Pines, correct?
Yeah, he was the mayor of Circle Pines, and he just moves through the world. He's so chipper. He's friends with everybody. People remember him, and I'm convinced we could have been home from the hospital in 4 hours. But he talks to everyone, and he wants to know who they are, and he'll tell about himself, and he'll talk about his woodworking projects. And so he's just really, I don't know how I got off on that tangent. So I'm going to shut up because
those are interesting facts.
I want to listen to you guys, because I have to tell you, when we were doing the courtroom drama, you guys were so so smart. I was flummoxed. It was so fun listening to you guys. Okay, so I'll shut up for 2 seconds. Go.
Oh, but dude, please chime in too if you want, though, because we love to hear your thoughts on if you've seen any of these movies. I will mention too, also political royalty. My grandfather was the mayor of the small town I grew up in.
That is true.
Really? For how long?
Oh, I think he was like 8 or 12 years. He had a few terms.
And he was the last,
right?
No, he was the last mayor, though, and then we moved to a selectman system.
Yeah. Yep.
And so the town's been terrible ever since.
Wait, what kind of system did they move to?
Selectmen. So first, second, third selectmen.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But one thing I know my grandfather did, because I was very young, but I would go to town hall with him and stuff. But he got rid of our town's police force because they were horribly corrupt, and we started using the state police instead.
You're kidding.
So, yep.
I bet that was controversial.
I'm sure it was.
But
they were very corrupt because my father talked about selling drugs to the police in the 80s.
Oh my gosh, that is so crazy. Did you know that Bridget's dad was mayor of her small town? We have to
come on.
No, for real. We'll have to get together.
Am I the only one here who doesn't have a relative who's mayor of their town?
Yes.
Hey,
Everyone here a mayor, a governor, a selectman, something.
My dad's big claim to fame was getting into the police force. That's huge. That's major.
Yeah.
My dad's big claim to fame as mayor was instituting bulk pickup once a month. Do you know what that is?
Is that trash pickup? Is that what you
trash
mean?
pickup.
It's trash pickup, but like with appliances, like shit you don't know where to take anywhere.
Oh, that's great too, though.
Yeah, no, I asked him, like, what do you think was your most valuable contribution? Bulk pickup. People needed it. So it's so great.
I love that practical streak. That's excellent.
Exactly. Exactly.
And the
great.
bumper stickers were memorable. Don't balk at bulk.
Both the Jerry Peel.
Yeah, they were everywhere. So my recommendation is another Warren Beatty movie, probably his best, and that's 1967's Bonnie and Clyde.
That's not the Parallax View.
It's not the Parallax View. Beatty plays Clyde Barrows, history's most impotent gangster, and his companion, Bonnie Parker, is played by Faye Dunaway. The film takes considerable license with the history and realism of the two criminals and paints them as two starry-eyed kids out to catch thrills, but end up catching bullets. It's not quite a romance. It's if you don't know what happens to Bonnie and Clyde by now, Ryan, this is when you said I spoiled Titanic for you.
Oh my God.
It's not quite a romance. It's not quite a comedy. It's not quite an action, but it integrates elements of all of those. It's considered to be starkly violent for that time period. It's one of the first films to feature extensive use of squibs, which are those nifty little charges that explode with tiny blood packets to simulate gunshots. The final climactic scene of Bonnie and Clyde, spoilers, they die, Ryan, is especially gruesome.
I did it again.
You got to stop choking on your whistle.
Yeah,
There's too many flies floating around
over
in
there.
your
Is
room.
everyone okay over there?
It's
We're good.
very exciting.
We're good.
The film
Shouldn't
also
inhale it.
features Gene Hackman and Estelle Parsons, who received an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress.
Oh, she's so good in it. She is. She's so maddening. Oh my gosh.
Yep. And be on the lookout for a young Gene Wilder making his film debut as a comically terrified hostage. Bonnie and Clyde is currently streaming on HBO Max and something called Sling TV. Pretty cool.
That was a good movie, and that final scene is kind of like, it's so upsetting, but it's so visually poetic too.
Yeah, they take that's another one where they take a lot of cinematic license because there's a lot of proof that shows they never stopped that car and never got out.
Wow. Right.
They just got waylaid. Mr. Schlender, it is your choice. You were the judge, so
It was, wasn't it? All right, so we're watching Road to Ishtar, and I'm like, okay, desert. What happens in deserts? Well, there was some World War II stuff that happened in the desert. It got me thinking about General Montgomery. And then I remember this portrayal of General Montgomery that I really liked in
Buckle up, guys. This is going to be a walk.
No, we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm bringing it all in.
Remember this one time I went to Montgomery, Alabama, and they had great crab cakes. And so then I started thinking crab cakes.
And I bought a couch at Montgomery
have
Ward's
pain when they
once.
get killed and then made into cakes. Sorry, go ahead, Dylan.
All right. Yeah, so thank you for stepping all over my crab cake bit.
From the top. It was in the desert, and he was thinking desert.
So here we go. I'm actually recommending Ike, Countdown to D-Day, starring none other than a mustacheless Tom Selleck as the titular character, Dwight D. Eisenhower.
What?
It's about the 90 days. Yeah, it's about the 90 days leading up to Operation Overlord, which is D-Day, obviously. And it's very well done. It's very well acted. It's kind of understated because it's a TV movie, but it has such great performances, and you've never really seen Tom Selleck in a role like this. Incredibly mustacheless, I must emphasize.
It's not
that.
Tom Selleck without the mustache. It's someone
Yeah.
else.
How
No,
can
but
that be?
it's really good. My favorite scene is the scene where he confronts Patton when they're talking about the plans moving forward. Patton obviously has a lot of bravado. He's very grandiose, and versus the understated Ike, so their private meeting is actually pretty intense, and then it actually ends on a pretty heartfelt note between the two men. So it's just there's a lot of interesting things that happen leading up to D-Day, and this movie captures a lot of it.
But a mustacheless Selleck sounds like Bobcat Goldthwait in his normal voice.
Yeah, but he looks great, and he kills the part, man. He absolutely kills it.
I am very
Absolutely.
curious. Consider me curious.
It
Awesome.
piqued. My interest is piqued.
I like
I'm going
it.
to pass this over to our foreman, Kayleigh. What have you got for us? What's your recommendation?
So my recommendation would be Au revoir les enfants, which
Whoa,
is a
slow down.
It's a French film that I watched in high school for the first time, and it's probably one of the most profound movies that really stuck around with me. It's an autobiographical film about a school in France during World War II, where the priests at the school, it's a Catholic school, take in 3 Jewish fugitive children and sort of hide them there and pretend that they're, Christian students. And this whole movie is about this budding friendship between 2 of the students. And I don't want to spoil the ending, but it's very touching and definitely a beautiful movie. I would highly recommend.
Sounds cool. Can you give me the title slower, though?
Yes. Au revoir. So like goodbye. Les enfants. Children.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Goodbye, kids.
Au revoir, les enfants.
I'm glad Kayleigh and I
that
coordinated on our World War II recommendations.
Nicely
I'm
done.
going highbrow.
We called each other. It's like, it's Ishtar. What do we do? She's like, World War II. We're fine. I'm like, okay.
She said, "Stop calling me." How did you get this number? Ryan, what is your recommendation?
My recommendation this week just so happens to be a film I watched for the first time the other day, one that has absolutely nothing to do with Ishtar in any way, 1947's Black Narcissus from Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger. Sadly, movies no longer have the same texture of 3-strip Technicolor, and Black Narcissus is about as vividly realized as Technicolor ever got. These beautifully vivid tapestries of saturated tones, where every frame is an impressionist painting in its own right. It's gorgeous, and you can find it on the Criterion Channel.
Thank you. That's on my list. I'm so excited. Thank you.
And it looks so good on there. I mean, they're like one of the few sites out there that actually does HD right, and man, it looks good.
Yeah.
Yep. Ryan loves his Criterion.
He
channel.
loves the Criterion
I'm
or the
obsessed with it.
TCM.
Yeah,
And the
I
TCM.
have TCM. I'm obsessed.
Yep, TCB. Big Ben, you want to send us on home?
Everyone's going highbrow. I feel like everyone did like a Vincent pick, and I'm gonna do like a Gene pick that's just like lowbrow and dumb. I'm gonna go with
Slumber
one of my.
Party Massacre from Ben.
It's one of my favorite buddy adventure comedy films that admittedly has its flaws, but it's still one that I feel like I can come back to time and time again, and that's Shanghai Noon. It's Jackie Chan, but he's in the Old West in this one. And in my humble opinion, he has a much more fun dynamic with Owen Wilson than he does with Chris Tucker. But maybe that's because I never saw the hype. It's fun. It's creative. It's got martial arts. It's got train heists. It has everything.
That's
and
everything.
Jackie Chan's name in that movie, Chon Wang.
Sean Wang.
And
Wang.
for-
That's a
For
terrible
those of
cowboy
you
name.
at home,
Of
we
course.
all just edited out all of us doing our Chris Tucker impressions. That didn't make the cut. It happened, but we cut it.
We can't afford to get canceled again. But is that the sequel, Ben?
No, that's
No,
Shanghai
I
Nights.
recommend them
Shanghai
both. I
Nights.
went with Shanghai Noon, but Shanghai Nights is good too.
Shanghai Nights is the second one, then. Okay.
Well, I love in Shanghai Nights when they're talking about the guy who's 13th in line for the throne, and just apropos of nothing, he's like, he's the finest swordsman in England. It's like, well, they're going to have a sword fight now. And they do, and it's actually really good, not for nothing, but it's just like, what an interesting thing to say.
Kayleigh, what's your favorite
I-
part of Shanghai Nights?
I mean, I love Jackie Chan in pretty much everything I've seen him in. I do not appreciate most of the ridiculous humor that often accompanies Jackie Chan's counterparts.
Like
I
the bending
think
bars and stuff.
Well, I mean, no, I appreciate all of the jokes that he participates in. I think he's a hilarious, lovable character that I just adore everything that he does.
Because he's
But all
basically
of
Buster
his-
Keaton.
Yeah, all of
wow.
his sidekicks, though, I find, overly caricaturized often. More so than him, and I don't like those.
Exactly.
I kind of agree. Yeah. I don't know if that's
pick a
true.
new movie, Ben.
Why are you criticizing Ben's recommendation, Brian?
I know,
I hate
right?
you guys. Kayleigh, I'm tagging you out. You're the new Reels of Justice host in place of me.
Yay!
I'm out. Peace, fellas.
It worked.
We would totally take that if you're not busy. But you will have to watch horror movies. I'm so sorry.
I don't know.
I believe that is true. As we start to wind things down here, we'd like to remind our listeners that if you leave us an iTunes review and send us a screenshot of it on either Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook with the hashtag ROJ Reviews, you will be entered into an upcoming raffle for some really cool Reels of Justice swag.
Okay, but don't listen to this episode because I was really off my game, you guys. So.
No, this is
not
great.
even close. You did great. We I won't name names, but we definitely have some people who really come in, try to fly it by the seat of their pants, and they definitely don't do as well as you. And you won.
Yeah,
you won.
okay,
It was
there
great.
you go. There you go. No,
It's
it's
so
been
few
so.
And you were very mean to Rob, which we appreciate.
Yes.
Thanks.
Which is
Yeah.
always a high episode listen to.
No, it's
Yeah, those always get the clicks.
so fun to listen to you guys talk about movies. I mean, so right on. It was fun.
Speaking of reviews, which we weren't speaking of momentarily, here's a
We
really
are now.
nice one. This podcast is truly unique. The theme, the banter, and the arguments is in quote, are so engaging that you'll be thinking about movies in whole new lights from Jen. Thank you, Jen. Now screenshot your review and shoot it to us on social medias with the hashtag ROJ Reviews and enter that raffle to get some free stuff.
Cool, yeah. And everyone, please leave us more reviews so we can force Ryan to read them. He hates saying nice things about the show.
That
He
is
really
true.
does.
That is very true.
And with that, we're all out of show this week, but we want to thank our guest, Mary Jo Pehl, for joining us. Thank you so much, Mary Jo. You were phenomenal.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was really fun, you guys. I appreciate you listening to me go on and on. Thanks.
Oh, we love that. And
It was
everybody,
fantastic. It was
please
fantastic.
tune in Tuesday, August 24th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, for the Mary Jo Pehl Show, the premiere episode. And then there'll be once every month, so continue to tune in because they're only going to get better.
Oh, hey, thanks for that, because I always forget to promote my stuff. I do, you guys, so thank you.
And don't forget, if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe to that Twitch channel for free through your Prime account. So there you go. Now you can get some subscribers on there, Mary Jo.
Well, thank you. I didn't even know that.
So helpful. But yep, you did a great job, and we'd love to have you back sometime, anytime you are willing to join us.
Yes, thanks, you guys.
And we hope everyone else will join us again, too, as the Reels of Justice keep turning.
Count it.
Camels.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.